What's good, gamers? It's Trayvon coming at you with another video. For anyone serious about Ironman progression, Slayer is basically the backbone of every decent Ironman account. From all the resources from the monster drops, the combat training, and boss unlocks that drop some of the and close to some of the best gear in the game, it's definitely a skill you'll want to eventually focus on. To start things off, you're going to want to know what Turael Skipping and point boosting are. Turael Skipping is when you take a task from another Slayer Master, and if it's something you don't want, then you can go to Turael in Birth Rope to cancel your current task for a quick and easier one. This is incredibly useful if you don't care about your streak, want to save your current amount of points, and you're hunting for a specific task. The trade-off with Turael Skipping is that it resets your current Slayer task streak to 0. Since he cancels your streaks, it's always been my philosophy that you shouldn't get too attached to your streaks. The main point of Slayer streaks in general are to give you a huge amount of bonus points at specific task milestones. 5 times points every 10th task, 15 times points every 50th task, 25 times points every 100th tasks, etc. So every time you're about to hit one of these milestones, you would want to go to a Slayer Master you have unlocked that gives you the highest amount of points per task. This usually ends up being Konar. What if you want to rapidly farm points though? This is where point boosting comes in. Point boosting is used with Turael, but after the last summer sweep up, Slayer received a ton of changes that made Maskana the best for point boosting. In the past, you would do 9 tasks with Turael and the 10th at Konar. With this method, you could quickly hit Slayer task milestones for quickly farming points. Since you would be using Turael normally instead of using him to cancel tasks from another Slayer Master, your streaks wouldn't be reset. The bad thing about Turael though is that he doesn't give you points when you finish tasks for him. This changes with Maskana. With the summer sweep up, Maskana received a buff increasing the amount of points he gives per task, and each Slayer Master themselves has their own block list instead of sharing one. The tasks he gives are just as quick as Turael's, so basically, Maskana replaced Turael for boosting. Using him, you get a nice 54 points every 9 tasks, that being 6 per task, and your usual bonus points when doing the 10th at Konar. As you're leveling, it's unlikely that you're going to be doing much Turael skipping at all. I mean, that is if you ever decide to do it. Personally, I didn't really get into it until 95 Slayer, when all I was wanting to do were Hydra tasks. Here are the block lists I would personally recommend for point boosting and Turael skipping. They're focused on blocking the most annoying monsters that I find are the most difficult to get to and annoying to fight. As far as priority goes for Slayer unlocks, I would recommend the following order: Bigger and Badder, blocks and skips, extends and unlocks, Slayer Helm, Broad Arrows, and then the Slayer Rings. Bigger and Badder unlocks superior Slayer monsters. These are monsters that have a chance of spawning when you kill Slayer mobs. They have a chance to drop 2 important uniques, one being an Imbued Heart and the other being an Eternal Gem. The Imbued Heart is the best magic boosting item in the game that can be further upgraded into a Saturated Heart. The Eternal Gem is an item you can use to craft an Eternal Slayer Ring, basically allowing you to no longer need to go out of your way to craft Slayer Rings when you're trying to teleport around to certain task locations. So the earlier you're able to get Bigger and Badder, the better, because you'll be killing thousands of Slayer mobs on the journey to 99. Setting up a great block list as well as setting up task extensions and unlocks are a close second. Slayer is pretty miserable without a good block list, and for extensions, the only ones I would consider required are Necreals and Araxites. Dust Devils are also a good choice. Everything else is optional. That depends purely on whatever your goals are. The Slayer Helm. Look, a lot of people are going to recommend getting the Slayer Helm ASAP, but I think this is actually a huge trap because to make the Slayer Helm, one of the components is a black mask, which drops from Cave Horrors. The Black Mask makes up like 99% of the benefits a Slayer Helm is going to give you. The other benefits, like working as a face mask, is only relevant for things like Dust Devils or Aberrant Spectres. So if you're not going to do Aberrant Spectres and you don't have 65 Slayer for Dust Devils, then it is pointless to unlock the Slayer Helm outside of Fashionscape. Broader Fletching allows you to craft Broad Arrows and Broad Bolts. If you're using something like a Rune Crossbow, then Broad Bolts are going to be your best friend. They have the same strength as Addy Bolts while being way easier and faster to craft. And Broad Arrows are by far the fastest way to train fletching on an Ironman if you don't feel like doing other methods like the Veil Totems in Varlamore. And then there's the Slayer Rings, which just let you teleport to certain locations to do tasks. The Rune Pouch and Herb Sack aren't on this list because I consider them purely optional. Because the Rune Pouch can be acquired from LMS, which is just a PvP minigame, and I find that the Herb Sack honestly isn't used a ton nowadays, at least for me. In the past, you'd want to get it for Abbey Spectres, but Abbey Spectres are just irrelevant nowadays, now that we've gotten farming contracts. Before seriously training Slayer, you definitely should have a quest cape or at least close to it. This is because quest points will allow you to have most of the block slots unlocked, and you'll have a ton of Slayer XP from the quest rewards themselves. If you barely have any block slots unlocked, then most of the block lists I'm going to recommend aren't going to be useful to you. Here's a list of the quests that give Slayer XP. I'm going to assume you've done them and thus have a Slayer level of at least 50. Why 50? Because the total XP you'll get from the quests should level you a bit past that. When it comes to the actual block list, the type of block list you're going to want can depend on what your goals are. Some people want a more AFK-centered melee experience, and others want a more efficient bursting/barraging block list. Since this video is about being as efficient as possible, these lists are going to be focused on just that. These block lists will also be starting with Nieve, which requires you to have a combat level of 85 or higher. With the gem crab that released with Varlamore, getting level 85 combat shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. With Nieve, the only thing you're going to want to block are metal dragons, since they're so common. Since blocks no longer carry over to other Slayer masters and you won't be using Nieve for long, it's not worth filling out an entire block list for her when you're just starting out. When starting off, the main focus at this point is going to be building up Slayer points and getting 100 combat level. There are a few tasks you're going to want to do, but only for a little bit, then always skip them going forward. The first of these are elves for a good stack of, and I would recommend like 30 teleport crystals, and then always skip them after. Brine rats for a brine saber. This is a clue item, so if you don't do clues, you can always just skip these. And then on your troll tasks, you can do the Ice Troll Runts for a Granite Shield, which is also a clue item. If you want to get a Warped Scepter for magic, you can unlock the Warped Creatures task during this bracket and kill Warped Terror Birds for it. Then just log the task. Some tasks are just the worst and should always be skipped, like Spiritual Creatures and Turoth. Otherwise, here should be your main tasks to focus on. Bloodvelds, Calphites, Fire Giants, Dagonoths, Custodian Stalkers, which I would recommend trying your best to burst or barrage, Black Dragons, the babies, Trolls, Anku, Cave Horrors, Fossil Island Wyverns, Skeletal Wyverns, Blue Dragons, again the babies, and Mutated Zygomites. Kurask, and then just skip and avoid unlocking anything else at this point. Anku and the Custodian Stalkers, which ideally you're going to be killing the mature ones because of the Antler Guard, which is a decent offhand for chinning. Dagonoth and Dust Devils, all of these tasks should be bursted with ice or smoke spells or ice barrage. When using magic, the normal setup for this is going to be a Slayer Helm / Black Mask, an Ancient Staff, a Mage Arena 2 Cape, any blessing, an Amulet of Magic, Monk's Robes, a Prayer Book, empty or full, Bracelet of Slaughter, or Barrow's Gloves. Choose whatever you want, basically. It's also worth bringing a multi-target special attack melee weapon on barrage tasks for bonus strength or attack XP, like the Crystal Halley. Adding this with a few melee swaps if inventory space permits is a good way to get some melee XP on barrage tasks. The general way to kill monsters with melee at these levels is going to be using the following setup: a Dragon Skim, a Helm of Dance Knot, which you're going to want to upgrade to a Black Mask, and then later a Slayer Helm, an Arduin Cloak, 2 or 3, any blessing, an Amulet of Strength, Fighter Torso, Dragon Defender, some Proselyte, Expeditious Bracelet, or a Barrow's Glove, Climbing Boots, and a Berserker Ring. During melee tasks, I would also definitely recommend using Piety and any overhead prayers where they're needed. But honestly, at this point, a lot of these monsters are weak, so you can just eat food most of the time you take damage. But as a recap, if possible, I would aim for as many of the following pieces of gear as possible before going past level 58. You're going to want a Berserker's Ring, Thralls from A Kingdom Divided, Super Strength Potions, Dragon Defender, Piety, Smoke Barrage or Ice Barrage, a Dark Altar at the POH so you can easily switch to Ancients, a Pharaoh's Scepter, completion of as many hard diaries as possible, and at least 4 block slots. When you finally reached 100 combat level, you're probably going to be at least level 73 through 80 Slayer, and this is when you're going to want to switch to Duradel. While it's not required, you could also take a detour and grind for a Bofa, but again, it's not required. Worth it, but not required. You should totally get one though. When you're first starting with Duradel, your block list is going to want to be the following: Hellhounds, Calphites, Suqua, Bloodvelds, Worms, and the last 2 of your choice could be Aberrant Specters, Fire Giants, Skeletal Wyverns, and Spiritual Creatures. The reason I mentioned a Bofa earlier is because it's 100% worth doing Greater Demon tasks at Krill for a Zami Hasta. The Hasta is going to be used in place of a Dragon Skim in most situations, but you could also grind for a zombie axe. At this point, you're going to want to start doing Black Demon tasks for Zenites and Lizardmen Shamans for a Dragon Warhammer. And then by 99, hopefully you should have one. But definitely keep skipping the annoying tasks like Aberrant Spectres, Fire Giants, Skeletal Wyverns, Spiritual Creatures, Fossil Island Wyverns. You can also unlock the 500 point permanent block instead: Iron Dragons, Cave Horrors, Elves, Karasks, Mutated Zygomites, and Water Fiends. If your point situation is looking up, you can also start skipping Gargoyles. In this level bracket, you're going to also want to start killing Tormented Demons on your Greater Demon Slayer tasks. However, if you're going to be doing Demonic Gorillas at the same time, you're gonna probably run out of Arc Light charges, and Demonic Gorillas for Zenites are generally more important, so if you have to prioritize, then it makes sense to just delay Tormented Demons until you have both. I definitely wouldn't kill Tormented Demons without a Demon Bane weapon of some kind, but killing Demonic Gorillas with a non-Demon Bane weapon is completely fine. The goal at Tormented Demons is to complete the Burning Claws, Scorching Bow, and the Ember Light. You don't really need a Purging Staff because you can always just revert the Scorching Bow to a Synapse to make it, and vice versa. To recap, when you hit 100 combats, I would recommend detouring if you're interested in future PVM for the following before resuming Slayer: a BOFA, 93 crafting for Zenites, Lumbridge Elite Diary, which requires 77 rune crafting, a quest cape, and 83 smithing, 83 construction for an occult altar, Ice Barrage, Yama, or you can just do General Grador for a BCP, Tacits, and a BGS, and you could also get some divine range and magic potions. At level 80, you unlock Necreals, one of the better Slayer tasks in the game. There are two main methods to kill these, with Bursting or Barrage in the Catacombs, or Melee with an Arc Light or Ember Light in the Slayer Tower. The latter option is more macro efficient because of the Prayer, Herblore, and Melee XP, and GP and Alks, but it just gives lower Slayer XP and of course a lower chance at the imbued heart rate since you're not going to be barraging. At 84 Slayer, you're gonna unlock Drakes, and Drakes are absolutely terrible and should be blocked always, no matter the level bracket, making the new optimal block list Hellhounds, Caliphites, Drakes, Gargoyles, Black Demons, Sukwa, and Metal Dragons. This list assumes you've gotten all 4 Zenites from Black Demons, and if not, then you can just leave those unblocked. If you've completed Tormented Demons by now, then you're going to want to block Greater Demons again over one of the tasks with a weighting of at least 8. The monsters to kill are going to be Anku, Baby Black Dragons, Dagonoths, Dust Devils, Lizardmen Shamans, Necreals, Tormented Demons, Trolls, Worms, and Vorkath for your Blue Dragon tasks. Of course, with Vorkath, this is if you have a BOFA, otherwise just kill the Baby Blue Dragons. At level 85, you'll unlock the ability to kill Abyssal Demons, and the best way to kill them is using Smoke Barrage in the Catacombs of Kourend. Level 87 Slayer is generally considered to be a big milestone because this is when you unlock Cave Kraken tasks, which allow you to finally get a Trident of the Seas. Unfortunately though, since Doom released with the Eye of Ayak, it's kind of dead content nowadays if you aren't able to farm Doom yet. It's still good if you combine a Trident with an Occult Necklace and a Tormented Bracelet, so for now I'd actually recommend continuing Slayer as usual, blocking Cave Krakens over Worms, Sukwa, or Bloodvelds when you've gotten a Trident. In this level range, traditionally people move their block list around a lot during these levels because of all the bossing. Because of this fact, it's very difficult to give a good block list for these levels. So really, depending on your goals, just move around your blocks around to suit your bossing needs. This is a good block list to start off with if you aren't sure what you want to do yet. Hellhounds, Cave Krakens, after a Trident and Abyssal Tentacle, Greater Demons, Caliphites, Drakes, Metal Dragons, and then one of Black Demons, Worms, Sukwa, or Gargoyles. Choose one of these and skip the other 2. Again, the task you're going to want to be mainly doing barely changed from the previous bracket, and by now you should be noticing a bit of a pattern. You'll want to keep killing Abyssal Demons in the Catacombs of Kourend, then Anku, Baby Black Dragons, Dagonoths, Dust Devils, Lizardmen Shamans, Necreals, Tormented Demons, Trolls, Worms, Vorkath, or Baby Blue Dragons, and you'll also unlock Araxites in this level range as well, and Dark Beasts. Any other tasks you'd be doing depends on your goals. At level 93, you unlock one of the highest Slayer XP tasks per hour in the game, Smoke Devils. This massively boosts the average XP per hour of the entire Slayer list, as well as providing the Occult Necklace. I recommend just killing the small Smoke Devils, only going for the boss for the sake of the combat achievements. The recommended blocks are still the same as the previous section, though the newly unlocked good tasks mean you'll be going slightly point positive from now on. Levels 95 through 97. At level 95, it's a good idea to just camp Konar for Slayer tasks, specifically for Hydra tasks in particular, to get Ferocious Gloves and the Dragon Hunter Lance. Konar provides extra points per tasks compared to Duradel and to even more aggressive skipping later on, but Konar assigns specific locations limitations for tasks, and whether or not a task is worth doing versus skipping depends really on the location. And due to this, there are just so many bad tasks that outside of Hydra tasks and task milestones for the bonus points, Konar really isn't worth doing whatsoever. So I would strongly recommend Turael skipping when hunting for Hydra tasks. For hunting Hydras specifically, here's a good block list you can have for Konar. It's going to be Metal Dragons, Abyssal Demons, Black Demons, Cave Krakens, Drakes, Worms, and Fire Giants. I didn't list Calphites on this one because they're fast to do even if Konar assigns them to their lair. If you don't want to do Hydra, then you should just keep leveling Slayer the same way as the previous level bracket using Duradel. At 97 through 99, if you have a Dragon Hunter Lance, or maybe you took a detour and got a Fang from Toa, then you can afford to be very selective with your tasks at this point. And generally, your block list is going to want to look like the following. You're going to want to keep doing the tasks you've been doing, but now you can add Frost Dragons if you haven't already. All of these tasks are either incredibly short and quick for the fast points with a focus on barraging. As always, you can just switch around the block list depending on your goals as well as the tasks you want to do. But if your focus is solely on XP and the chance of an imbued heart or eternal gem, these are going to be what you're going to want to be focusing on. Now, there's a few useful plugins you're going to want to use as you're leveling Slayer. The main ones are going to be Slayer, Slayer Task Sorter, Konar Milestone Reminder, Monster Menu HP, and Turael Skipping. The Slayer plugin is one of the default plugins on RuneLite. It's going to add a remaining Slayer task amount to Slayer helms and gems, as well as add a task info box to your screen. The Slayer Task Sorter plugin is going to by default sort the Slayer task list by weighting, then you can click or right click the Slayer task title, allowing you to reverse the order or switch the sort method. Konar Milestone Reminder is pretty self-explanatory. It just reminds you before every 10th, 50th, 100th, to 50th, 1000th, or nth task to go to Konar. Monster Menu HP shows the hit points of monsters in the right-click menu entry. This is especially useful for barraging stacks of monsters because it shows you which one has the most HP and thus which one you should click on. Turael Skipping is a plugin that makes Turael Skipping easier. It has a world map icon showing you the location of the Slayer task on the world map, a task information box showing you teleport options and important items, NPC highlighting, as well as area outlines. I hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see, Slayer is definitely a grind that's probably going to take you months, but it's probably the most important skill when it comes to progression on an Ironman. Anyways, boys, hopefully this guide helped. Be sure to join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one.